The Chinese Communist Party's long-term systematic and strategic infiltration into the United States has become a serious problem. This infiltration spans many areas, including politics, economy, academia, technology, media, and even the military. These actions pose a major threat to U.S. national security as well as to its social and economic development. They also weaken America's international position and affect global stability. Today, we will look at how serious this infiltration has been. First, let's go over some cases that have been exposed and prosecuted by the U.S. government in recent years. On September 3, 2024, the FBI raided the $3.5 million home of Sun Wen and her husband Hu Xiao in Long Island, New York, and arrested them. Sun Wen, who was born in China, moved to the U.S. when she was 5 and later became a U.S. citizen. She began working for the New York State government in 2009 and held several important roles, including Deputy Chief of the Multicultural Office under former Governor Andrew Cuomo and Deputy Chief of Staff under current Governor Kathy Hochul. This gave her access to sensitive government information and allowed her to influence decisions made by the governor and the state government. However, Sun Wen secretly worked as an agent for the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, serving their interests while holding a position in the U.S. government. The Brooklyn Federal Prosecutor's Office filed a 65-page indictment accusing Sun Wen of being a CCP agent with the following charges. In 2018 and 2019, Sun Wen forged the signature of the New York governor twice to invite officials from Henan province to visit New York. This allowed them to get U.S. visas and enter the country. Since 2016, at the request of the Chinese consulate, Sun Wen blocked communication between Taiwanese government officials and the governor's office. She also canceled meetings with Taiwanese officials and removed mentions of Taiwan and the Uyghurs from state government documents. In March 2020, as COVID-19 spread in New York, state officials held a private conference call. Without anyone knowing, Sun Wen secretly allowed a CCP official to join and listen in on the entire meeting. Sun Wen and her husband used the money they made from the CCP to buy a $4.1 million mansion in the wealthy area of Manhasset, Long Island, a $2.1 million luxury apartment in Honolulu, Hawaii, and several luxury cars, including a 2024 Ferrari. However, Sun Wen never reported these assets to the New York State government as required by law. This case is just one example of the CCP's ongoing efforts to infiltrate the U.S. government. Case 2. On August 6, 2024, Wang Shuzhen, a 76-year-old Chinese-American scholar who had long been active in the pro-democracy movement as an anti-communist, was arrested by a federal court in the Eastern District of New York. He has now been found guilty by a jury in the Federal Court of the Eastern District of New York on 4 charges, including acting as an agent of a foreign government and making false statements to law enforcement authorities. According to court records, Wang made 19 trips to and from China between 2011 and 2019, and between 2013 and 2017. Wang had 100 recorded calls with Zhe Jai, an official of Qingdao State Security, which often lasted for hours. In late 2015, Wang purchased a smartphone and used WeChat to communicate as instructed by Chinese state security. All of these facts were obtained by the FBI and used as evidence in court. Case 3. On July 24th and 25th, 2024, Chen Juan and Lin Feng pleaded guilty in the Southern District of New York Federal Court to charges of acting as foreign agents and bribing U.S. government officials. Both men were pro-CCP overseas Chinese leaders from the Los Angeles Chinese community, but secretly worked for the Chinese Communist Party, extending its persecution of people of faith overseas. According to the indictment, between January and May 2023, they followed orders from CCP officials to bribe a U.S. IRS officer. The goal was to help the CCP revoke the tax-exempt status of Shenyun Performing Arts. They gave the IRS officer $5,000 in 2 separate bribes and promised an additional $50,000 in bribes, along with other benefits, if their plan succeeded. Shenyun Performing Arts, founded in New York, is a world-renowned group dedicated to showcasing China's 5,000-year-old traditional culture, which has been largely destroyed under CCP rule. Case 4. On May 9, 2023, Liang Litong, co-chair of the China Peaceful Unification Promotion Association in Boston, was arrested by the FBI. Prosecutors accused Liang of taking orders from the Chinese Communist Party officials in 3 main ways: collecting information on local people in the Boston area, including those on a blacklist, helping the Chinese Ministry of Public Security recruit potential agents, and organizing and leading protests. The prosecution stated that the 14 people on the blacklist were community members who supported Dr. Sun Yat-sen's ideas of democracy and freedom. Although the jury found Liang not guilty on February 10th, the Massachusetts Federal Prosecutor's Office, led by Leah Foley, said they were disappointed but respect the jury's decision. Hong Kong activist Xu Yingting, who had been stalked and harassed in Boston, released a statement saying, "The indictment clearly shows examples of the CCP's efforts to repress people in the US, and the evidence presented in court, including a certificate and official stamps from the Chinese Ministry of Public Security found at Liang's home, shows his close ties to the CCP." Xu also mentioned, "Since Liang's trial began, many people have reached out to share their experiences of intimidation, harassment, and surveillance, asking me to continue speaking out." Case 5. On May 28, 2024, An Qin-jong, the former president of the New York Shandong Association, and his daughter An Guangyang pleaded guilty in the Eastern District of New York Federal Court. An Guangyang admitted to acting illegally as a foreign agent, while An Guangyang admitted to being involved in visa fraud. After they were arrested in October 2022, a federal grand jury charged them with working with 5 Chinese government officials to try to force a U.S. resident to return to China. They were also charged with participating in a money laundering scheme. Case 6. On August 21, 2024, Chinese pro-democracy activist Tong Yuan-juen was arrested in an office in Flushing, New York. He was charged with not registering as a foreign agent, conspiracy, and making false statements. Federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York said that from 2018 to 2023, Tong Yuan-juen, who had been an active participant in the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests, secretly shared sensitive information about pro-democracy activists, dissidents, and U.S. congressional candidates with officials from China's Ministry of State Security. Tong started working for China's Ministry of State Security in 2018 in exchange for the right to visit his family in China. His job included taking photos and videos of people who were of interest to China's intelligence services and sharing their locations with his contacts. In return, the Ministry of State Security paid his family in mainland China. Case 7. On August 23, 2024, Chinese engineer Ping Li was arrested in Florida. He later admitted to working with China's Ministry of State Security and illegally acting as a foreign agent. Since 2012, Ping Li has traveled to China multiple times to meet with Ministry of State Security officials. He followed their instructions to gather information in the U.S. on various topics, such as the activities of Falun Gong members, Chinese dissidents, pro-democracy activists, business data from U.S. companies, and how non-governmental organizations operate. To hide his activities, Li used fake email accounts when communicating with the Ministry of State Security. Case 8. On December 19, 2024, Sun Yao-ning, a Chinese-American and general director of the American-Chinese Grand Gala, was arrested in California. He is accused of helping an Asian woman named Wang get elected as a city council member in California in 2022. Sun, who served as her campaign manager, is alleged to have acted as an illegal agent for China. He is also accused of conspiring with another Chinese spy, Chen Zuen, to influence and infiltrate locally elected officials in the U.S. Case 9. On February 4, 2025, the U.S. Department of Justice announced that Ding Lin Wei, a former Google engineer from China, was initially charged with 4 counts of stealing trade secrets. He now faces additional charges, including 7 counts of economic espionage and 7 counts of stealing trade secrets. The indictment states that Ding joined Google in May 2019 and started stealing information about Google's supercomputer data centers and AI models in 2022. By May 2023, he had uploaded over 1,000 confidential files to assist 2 Chinese tech companies. In his application for a Chinese government talent program, Ding claimed his company's products would help China develop internationally competitive computing power. Recently, the conservative Washington-based media outlet the Daily Telegraph News Foundation released an investigation revealing a network indirectly led by China's United Front Work Department and Ministry of Public Security. This network is made up of over 10 non-profit organizations. The network operates in California, Washington, Hawaii, and New York, sharing information with Chinese law enforcement. Some of these groups have even set up unauthorized underground courts. The investigation also found that Chinese law enforcement has hired at least 8 leaders from U.S. nonprofit organizations to act as overseas mediators and hearing officers for these underground courts. While China claims these officials are only dealing with routine tasks like renewing Chinese driver's licenses or handling international divorces, experts believe there are deeper, hidden motives behind this. These nonprofit organizations are led by individuals who work closely with China's United Front Work Department. Some of them have discussed forced deportation plans with officials from China's Ministry of Public Security. A few of those involved in running China's underground courts also manage China's underground police stations in New York. The investigation found two nonprofit leaders working for China's Ministry of Public Security. One of them, Chen Shisheng, is the co-chair of the National Zhejiang Chamber of Commerce. He acts as a mediator for the Wenzhou City Court and supervises the Zhejiang Ministry of Public Security. He regularly meets with Ministry of Public Security officials to discuss overseas police operations. The other leader, Chu Hongbin, is the honorary chairman of the Fujian Chamber of Commerce in New York. He previously served as an officer in China's armed police force and worked for the Ministry of Public Security before coming to the U.S. In 2022, the nonprofit group Protectors released a report showing that China has set up 102 police stations across 53 countries. From April 2021 to July 2022 alone, these stations forcibly repatriated 230,000 people back to China. So how does the Chinese Communist Party infiltrate the US? One major way is through politics. US intelligence agencies and the media have often reported that the Chinese Communist Party tries to influence US elections using money, lobbying, and agents. For example, in California, a Chinese spy named Christine Fong successfully infiltrated US politics by building connections with local political figures. She even helped Congressman Eric Swalwell win the election, along with other similar activities. Additionally, the Chinese government influences the US decision-making by funding American think tanks and policy research organizations. Some think tanks in Washington, D.C. that receive donations from Chinese sources have published reports that support China's views on issues like trade and Taiwan. Through this, China tries to sway U.S. officials and push for policies that benefit them. Secondly, China also infiltrates the economy. Chinese companies often buy or invest in U.S. high-tech firms to gain access to sensitive technology and data. For example, the Chinese company Huawei tried to build partnerships with U.S. companies while using espionage to steal intellectual property. Many big American companies such as NBA, Disney, and Apple are careful in their dealings with the Chinese government due to the large business opportunities in China. In 2019, when Daryl Morey, the general manager of the Houston Rockets, tweeted support for Hong Kong protesters, China quickly put pressure on the NBA, leading to a loss of broadcast rights in China and forcing the NBA to make compromises. Third, infiltration in academia and education. Confucius Institutes, which are funded by the Chinese government, have been set up in numerous U.S. universities. While they claim to promote Chinese language education, in reality they pose a threat to academic freedom. Both the U.S. government and the academic community have found that Confucius Institutes exert influence on sensitive issues like Taiwan, Tibet, and Hong Kong, restricting scholars from freely researching and discussing these topics. In 2020, the U.S. government designated Confucius Institutes as foreign missions and began shutting down their operations in the U.S. Chinese spies have also used academic exchanges to steal American technological secrets. For example, Charles Lieber, the former chair of the chemistry department at Harvard University, was arrested for concealing his involvement with China's Thousand Talents program. He allegedly received funding from the Chinese government and provided advanced technology in return. Additionally, many Chinese students and researchers have been caught engaging in espionage, stealing confidential data from U.S. universities and research institutions. Fourth, media and public opinion warfare. Many Chinese-language media outlets in the U.S. such as Chaobao and World Journal are funded and run by the Chinese Communist Party. These outlets promote the official views of the Chinese government, influencing how Chinese Americans view U.S.-China relations. The CCP also spreads fake information on social media to influence public opinion in the U.S. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the Chinese government used social media to spread false claims that the U.S. government was hiding information about the virus, trying to shift the blame. Additionally, the CCP uses online troll armies like the 50 Cent Army to manipulate public opinion and suppress negative news about the Chinese government. Finally, let's listen to Chinese-American writer and political commentator Cheng Po Kong's analysis of the CCP's methods of infiltrating the U.S. The Chinese Communist Party infiltrates overseas Chinese communities and dissident groups in two main ways: through the United Front strategy and through espionage, also known as intelligence operations or special agent activities. First, let's talk about the United Front. Mao Zedong once said that the Communist Party has three main weapons: the United Front, armed struggle, and party building. He placed the United Front or United Front work at the top, showing just how important it was to him. Another key part of the CCP's strategy is espionage. The CCP has several departments involved in this, such as the United Front Work Department, the Ministry of State Security, and the Ministry of Public Security. These departments often collaborate and work closely together. The United Front workers are spread across China's diplomatic and media systems, as well as within Chinese communities around the world, especially in the US. The Ministry of State Security and the Ministry of Public Security also have people within these networks. This creates a complex and interconnected system. The CCP uses various legitimate identities to stay in the US, supported by manpower, resources, and funding from the Chinese government. They use many methods to gather intelligence from the groups they infiltrate, with the goal of surpassing and undermining the US and ultimately creating a community of shared human destiny led by the CCP. The CCP's espionage activities typically involve tactics like infiltration, embedding within organizations, human wave tactics, causing internal divisions within target groups, creating conflicts to weaken or fragment organizations, seizing leadership, and using basic techniques such as bribery, sexual entrapment, and coercion. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.